You've watched a couple of Granblue Fantasy Relink videos and decided to buy it. Then you started slashing through the content and got hooked by its gameplay loop. It is easy to overlook a lot of features since the game offers tons of stuff, especially at endgame. Combat has its depths as well, and it is one of the aspects that players miss a lot of things, especially for first-timers in action role-playing games. I am the Samurai, and I will be sharing my 12 essential combat tips that will help you adjust from a newbie Skyfarer to a legendary Skyfarer in no time. The first combat tip is elemental weaknesses. Of course, when starting the game, you could lose hours and hours of figuring out what would be the best team and countering each element. I don't blame you, it is part of the norm to think this way, especially when playing a Japanese role-playing game. However, in Granblue Fantasy Relink, you shouldn't be worrying about elemental weaknesses, especially in the early parts of the game. Just focus on raising your first 4 characters without worrying about their element. Even in the early parts of endgame, elemental weaknesses are more of a bonus that will matter in most difficult fights in the game. To know which character you should pick as your first characters, click the card or check the description section below for my beginner guide here to learn more helpful tips and have the best start as possible. Now moving on to my second tip, and a lot of players, are including myself, forget that blocking and jumping are part of the game's combat mechanics, especially when dealing with fight mechanics. As a Souls-like veteran or an ARPG enthusiast in general, I tend to see evades as the be-all end-all in terms of avoiding attacks in most cases. So like you, we've also forgotten that guarding and jumping are 2 effective ways to handle fight mechanics. Blocking mechanics work really well in most cases rather than solely relying on perfectly timed dodge maneuvers. I know I've been there and I was so addicted to mastering the timing, and it's a natural thing for me to do so. Blocking attacks can save you a lot of time, and it is much easier to do so since you will just be holding a single button to skip a mechanic. Keep in mind that your guard stance may be broken if you already blocked a lot of attacks, but it is so forgiving to the point that you can do it over and over. The same thing applies to jumping as well. There are a lot of mechanics in the games you can just simply jump to survive a certain mechanic. Be observant and take this to your advantage. The third tip is dodging and evade maneuvers lets you continue combos. There are a lot of characters in Granblue Fantasy Relink that perform longer combos, and retaining the said combos will give some sort of damage buff, or it will give you access to a strong combo finisher. However, while you are doing these combos, the boss starts attacking you. If this happens, just do a timely dodge and you can continue your combo afterwards, and dodging in this game does not cut combos and you can continue it as soon as the dodge animation ends. The fourth tip is observe mechanics carefully. Now, if you prefer to rely on your dodges still, I do have a useful trick for you. Most of the mechanics in Granblue Fantasy Relink usually take time before they resolve. For example, the ever common damage puddle on the ground, and there are a lot of bosses that do these kind of mechanics and even spam them in most cases. Look closely, as before the mechanic resolves, it will show you a visual cue where a line is moving towards the end of the circle. When the line reaches the end of the circle, the mechanics will resolve. Use this visual cue if you are getting a hard time timing in your perfect dodge rolls by just relying on your instinct. This is also helpful when you get caught up in a large AoE and you think you will not have enough time. Most players will panic and spam their dodge rolls, exhausting it in the process, making them get hit even more since they use their dodge prematurely or out of timing. You can just look for the moving line and then run towards outside to the circle and then continuously spam your dodge, and in this way you can get out safely. If you really love dodging attacks, I suggest taking advantage of improved dodge trait, and if you have it, if that's the case, so you can increase your iframes during dodge rolls and even increase your dodge count. Now for the next tip, take advantage of the double link time strategy. This is one of the best tips in here actually, since we all know that link time is our burst window when dealing damage to bosses. It takes a considerable amount of time to fill in the link time percentage to 100 by doing link attacks and other specific actions in combat. What good thing about this is you can take advantage of 2 consecutive link time windows by following these steps. First is filling your SBA gauge to 100 and ensure that everyone can do a full burst. Save your SBAs and don't use them. Then fill in your link time gauge to 100% and activate it. Burst your target with regular skills and attack combination until the link time expires. Right after it expires, activate your SBAs and deal a full burst. After doing so, you will notice that your link time is back at 100%, so you can activate it again to gain another burst window. During these link time burst windows, ensure that you are using all of your hardest hitting skills and perform optimal combo rotations. Notice that some of the characters that rely on a special mechanic that affects their damage are also heightened as well during link times. Like for instance, Narmaya's butterflies will always be at max count during link times, or Rakam's heat gauge will always be at full, so make sure to take advantage of this to deal the highest damage possible. But before the next step, if you are into straight to the point guides, tips and tricks like this one, subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button and it will tremendously help me a lot. Consider joining the Empire today and your support is greatly appreciated. Now on to the next step. The next step on the list is scoring more link attacks. Speaking of link time, there are a lot of ways to optimize this feature, and one of the easiest ways to gain link time to 100% is by frequently dealing with link attacks. Depending on how fast you can stun your enemies, the faster you can do link attacks, so equipping stun power sigils could be a great addition to your build. Having a high stun power, you can quickly stun enemies and do more link attacks. So the more you do link attacks, the faster you can access link time. On the other hand, the trait Link Together provides a substantial boost to your link level gain, chain burst damage, and link attack damage. This is useful if you wish to really pay attention to your link time burst windows, and it helps you access it faster as well in the process. Okay, so moving on to the next step, which is prolonging your link time window. Since the link time duration is limited and in most cases short, you actually can prolong link time effectively by dealing multi-hit or speedy attacks during its duration. Taking advantage of characters like Lancelot or Charlotta can easily do this trick, and they will help you prolong your link time. You can also take advantage of supplementary damage buff when prolonging link times, as the system will take the additional hits from this buff as another normal hit. There are a lot of characters who can buff themselves with supplementary damage, so keep an eye out for this one. You can also equip supplementary damage sigil, and it is quite rare since you can get it from Curios, but it is an option as well. The next step would be a faster way to access full burst in combat. You might be thinking, oh, I need to wait for all of my party members to gain their SBA gauge to 100% to ensure we will score a full chain burst. This is my initial reaction and thoughts as well, but honestly, you can score a full chain burst even if some of your party members do not have their gauges full. For instance, all of your party members can access their SBAs by having at least one character with 100%, 90%, 80%, and 70% SBA gauges. The idea is that every time someone in your party does an SBA, the whole party will receive a 10% SBA gauge, leading all of you to score a full chain burst. Speaking of full chain burst, the next step is determining the full chain burst elemental damage. Ever wonder what is the determining factor of its element at the end of the animation? It solely depends on whose character will do their SBA first. The element of that character will determine the elemental burst at the end. Why is this important, I hear you asking? I mentioned that elemental weaknesses are not important at early game, but in the hardest difficulties or endgame fights, dealing with the right elemental chain burst can help your party deal significant damage to targets. This will come in handy especially when dealing with bosses with millions of HP, and every little damage will help. The next tip goes for having more potions in battle. There are a lot of party compositions, especially in multiplayer, that don't have a dedicated healer, so you might consider taking advantage of the Potion Hoarder trait, which will provide your build with more potions that you can take advantage of that may come in handy, especially if you are new to the game. Moving on to the next step, and the next step on the list is knowing your character. Many of you will think that this is a pretty basic topic, but many players, especially beginners, don't know how their characters operate. Such a basic thing, but all of the other tips here are just good to know tips if you can't use your character correctly. You will be dealing lesser damage, fights will be longer, or worse, die often in combat. Take the time to learn your character's gameplay, especially your main, and you will be benefiting from it tremendously. You are doing yourself a favor, and most importantly, your mates when playing in multiplayer will thank you for it. Now here comes the last tip that I have here, and probably one of the most important one, and this tip probably needs its own video, but I decided to include it here since I find it essential, since there's a high chance that players are ruining their builds unintentionally and have a hard time, especially in the endgame. This is by building their characters with more damage multiplying traits and doesn't pay attention to damage cap traits. So when you start the game, it is only natural that you will be paying attention to increasing your total attack power and also equip more damage multiplier traits like critical hit chance, critical hit damage, and so on. But when the end game comes and you max out your masteries, you will notice that you are dealing the same damage numbers to enemies, making fights longer and annoying. This is happening since you already reached your character's current damage cap. As the name implies, take it as your bottlenecking feature in terms of damage. Equipping more damage multiplier sigils will not increase your damage, and the one that I am showing on the screen right now is an example of an abysmally faulty build. To fix this issue, instead of equipping more damage multipliers at early game, it is better to equip something like what I'm showing right now, which focuses on increasing your total damage cap. In this way, you will be seeing high damage numbers, making you stronger in general. And there you have it. These are my top essential combat tips that you need to know so you can be one of the best Skyfarer out there. If I forgot a useful tip, comment down below so we can share it with the newbies out there. If you want to have the best start in the game or know the best farming spot at early end game, click the videos here and I will see you in the next one.